Oh my God, you guys, I am so excited. We have Carrie Berkk on Seeing Other People today. Carrie Berkk, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, thank you for having me.
I am so looking forward to talking to you. Okay, let's
Thank you.
backstory. First of all, my real life rom com out now. Congratulations. How does it feel?
It's crazy. I still don't believe it. Like I keep waiting for it to sink in. I don't think it has yet.
It's one of those things where I feel like I remember when I was gonna become like a senior in high school or like a
Yeah.
graduating high school, graduating college, and I was like, "Oh, like eventually I'll feel it. Like I'll feel like I just entered a new chapter." And there was never that one feeling. It was kind of just like, "This is it now."
Yep. Yeah, it's kind of crazy. Like I don't know. I think it first hit me when like I got the book, I guess. No, it first hit me at the book cover photo shoot and I started crying. And then the second time it hit, it was when I got like the advanced reading copies. And like now it's like slowly sinking in. But it's still just like surreal. So just looking at it in front of me, it's surreal.
Well, congratulations. It is such an incredible book. I'm so excited to tell everyone about it and hopefully
Thank
get everybody to read it. I feel like I want to give you a hug right now because while reading it, I felt like you were me and you were just
you.
reciting parallel experiences that like I lived throughout my teenage years and my early 20s. And that's one of the things that's so special about this book and about all of your experiences that you kind of detailed is they're so relatable. But
Thank
I'm sure when you were going through it, you felt like you were the only person in the world experiencing it.
Exactly. Yeah. I think when I was writing it, I I was writing it down at first for myself. Like it wasn't even a book at first. It was just like diary entries, personal essays I was writing for myself, and I was using it as a form of like self therapy in a way to try and just like reflect on experiences and analyze them for myself. And then eventually I just put them all together and I realized this book was so much bigger than me. This is something that so many girls out there can relate to, and it's I think, and you can attest to this too, like it's so specific. Like the way I describe my experiences are very specific. It's not like cliched. Like if I'm telling you I got my heart broken, then I'm going to tell you what it really felt like. I'm not just going to say I got my heart broken. I'm going to tell you how did it feel in my fingers and my toes, and when I dropped to the ground and I took my breath away, like very specifically how these moments in love felt to me.
Were you writing these things down as they were happening, or was it like recalling it later on? Because part of me was like, this is so, to your point, specific, where
Hmm.
I really feel like I'm there. I really feel like this happened to her and it happened to me, but I could never like recreate the conversations that I had in the way that
Yeah.
you did.
So some of them were like right after. So it depends. Basically, I started writing this book when I was like 17, I think. Unofficially when I was 18, because the first part of the book I wrote after my first heartbreak, but I didn't know it was my book. It was just a diary entry and I put it aside. So when I was 17, I was starting to put my book together, and I had a chapter outline of a few chapters I knew I wanted to reflect on from the past, from when I was 16 and a little bit before. But as I was going through these experiences dating during the pandemic, as I was writing my book, I was just like, this is perfect. Like, this is going to make so much sense. So if it was like a quick, like one off, like a one timer thing, I would just sit down at my computer the next day and like write it all down and write the chapter. If it was a prolonged thing, like I'm trying to think. There was a guy I talked to for like 8 months that I dated in the book. And after like that kind of went to shit, I just like sat down at my computer and I wrote it all down. But I kind of knew one of those nights that it was going to be like done. So when I was like
Mhm.
sitting in the bathroom at like the movie theater, like writing down notes for
Oh
my
my
book,
God.
I know the tea. There was one time like it was like some crazy experience in like LA that I was having, and wanted to be like focused in the moment. And I was texting my friend, and I was just like, "Please save this for the book. Like, write a list. Like, to write down a list for me and send this to me tomorrow." So
I love that. I think that is so perfect because it is so real, and I think that's what makes it so like, I wanna hug you because you recited all of my experiences too. Um, I can't wait to talk about all of the different dating stories you went into. Before we do that, quick little icebreaker. We're going to play a few cards of where do you draw the line. So the options here, I'm going to give you scenarios, and it's either deal breaker, red flag, indifferent, or that's me.
Fun. Okay, let's go.
I may or may not have curated them specifically for you.
Of course.
They don't believe in marriage.
Wait, okay, list the 3 again.
Okay, deal breaker, red flag, indifferent, or that's me.
Okay, and these are like a guy, as if this was
yes.
Okay, deal breaker. Deal breaker.
They don't believe in marriage. Deal breaker. Yeah.
Oh, this is so good. You did based on the book.
They dated your best friend.
Red flag.
Foreshadowing.
I mean, it's like probably should be a deal breaker, but like, I don't know. Based on like the chapter in the book, she's referring to, if you guys don't know, there's a chapter in the book, Best Friend's Ex-Boyfriend, where I have a thing with my best friend's ex, and it doesn't really go well. So we'll leave that one at red flag for now.
Do you think there's a scenario where it could work?
I think it's always going to be weird. Not anymore. I think at one point I did. Like, if you asked me a few years ago, I probably would have said, like, yeah, as long as the friend says yes. But, like, my friend said yes time and time again, and I still, like, saw the look in her eyes every time I talked about him, and it just wasn't the same. Also, like, every time I was introducing the guy to someone, like, when him not there, obviously, it was like, oh my God, I met this guy. He's actually my best friend's ex. Like, he would always be the best friend's ex. He would never just be his name.
Your person.
Yeah.
Yeah. I hear that. I get that. They spend more than 1 hour a day on TikTok.
I feel like that's cute. Like, that's me.
That's me. Yeah. It's me too. And they repost cheesy quotes on social media.
On like a story or a feed?
Okay. Wherever their heart desires.
Okay, I feel like this is like oddly specific, but if it's on a close friend story, I feel like that's fine. Like, that's me. Like, I do that. But if it's like on your feed, that's just like weird. I feel like a mature man is like posting his life on his feed, like what he's up to, and not like comedy.
Like, I feel like a mature man isn't posting anything, but that's a double standard. So,
okay, yeah.
If we can do it, so can they.
He's not an influencer.
Yeah. All right. Where do you draw the line? Woo. Okay.
That was fun.
Carrie.
I love that game.
I love it. It's such a fun game. It's honestly an amazing date game.
I'm going to write it down. I have a boyfriend now. I'm going to like get it for him.
That was one of my questions. So excited to hear how that started, because that is not a chapter in the book.
No, I met him the month after I turned in the manuscript for the book. But even if I did know him when I turned in the book, I care about him way too much and respect his privacy way too much to write about him. I always say I write for him, like love letters and such, but I do not write about him.
I actually feel like it's perfect and makes sense that you met right after you were finished with the book. Like, writing this book was a journey that you had to go on for yourself. And you talk about it at the end of the book too, where you had to overcome and work through like anxiety and all these different things to end up really figuring out who you were and how you wanted to be you. And figuring that out is such an important step for anyone to actually make space to be somebody else's partner.
Yeah, for sure. I think when I was going through anxiety for the first time, I just thought there was something wrong with me. Nobody could ever love me if I showed this side of myself. And like throughout the book, I mentioned in like my first love chapter that we never had any conflict. We never fought. It was just always very surface level. He only saw like the best parts of me, and I only saw the best parts of him. And that's part of the reason why it didn't work, among other things. But when you find someone who is really your person, I think that's someone who's able to see those darker sides of you and is able to sit with you and listen to you and just be whatever you need them to be in that moment and like look at you non-judgmentally. Like, that's something I never achieved, unfortunately, in this book, but always wanted. And I feel like now that I've achieved that, I feel like I have like a greater appreciation for it.
No, absolutely. I think there's so much truth to that. Like, you have to experience, you don't have to experience, but experiencing the darker side of dating or experiencing getting your heart broken, it
Mhm.
makes you appreciate when you do find somebody who treats you the way you deserve. And there was, I forget who it was, but you pointed out from one of the guys you wrote about in a chapter, you pointed out how, like, from that person, you learned how you wanted to be treated.
Yeah.
And even if it didn't work out, you still got to walk away with that, and that is a huge win and something that it's really
Mhm.
difficult to grasp when you're getting your heart's getting broken and you're upset and you want to be with this person that no longer wants to be with you, but there's still that takeaway like, "Oh wow, from this person I learned how I deserve to be treated, and I will find that again with somebody who will do it even more, who still like wouldn't dream of losing me."
Absolutely. I think I took something away from each one of these guys. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think the one you're referring to, there's a chapter called The Shy Guy where the guy is super shy. And
Mhm.
I take away that, like, basically the irony that the shy guy taught me how to assert myself in a relationship.
Yeah.
Like, I learned from a shy guy that, like, the importance of asserting yourself because when he wasn't able to assert himself and what he wanted to me, like that just like stressed the importance of like not only having someone who does that, but also like doing that myself as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It reminds you how important it is to express your needs and say what's on your mind because they can't read your mind. And especially if they're not going to take charge, I think it's amazing that you had that experience to learn, like, okay, well, if Carrie wants something done, or if Carrie has something to say, or if Carrie wants to do this thing, like Carrie can speak up for herself. Like Carrie doesn't have to
Yeah,
just wait for this guy to do everything and say everything.
exactly. Yeah, I feel like you see the progression throughout the book. Like a girl at 16 who just relied on a guy to make her feel special, and you know, towards the end of the book, it's really just like a self love anthem, like in writing, just me really showing like who this is who I am, and this is the type of guy I know I deserve. I don't need to wait for anyone to come to me. I'm just gonna do me and be myself and have a good time. And I was on the dating apps towards the end of the book. I'm just gonna present myself. Hi, here's who I am. If you don't like that, cool, goodbye. And that's kind of
Yeah.
where I left it at the end of the book without giving away too
Yeah. No, I think that's perfect. And I think that is the exact mindset you need to be in order to actually
much.
meet your person or meet somebody you can build a partnership with. Because if you're just wanting to be in a relationship so badly, and I was in that position for so long where I just wanted to be wanted.
Yeah.
And I was never going to end up building something with somebody because I was just going to take whatever I could get.
Mhm.
And I was accepting way less than I deserved. And I was feeling horrible about it all the time because I knew, well, this person isn't treating me well, but at least they want to spend time with me. So I'll take what I can get.
Mm. That thing you talk about, like wanting to be wanted, that's something I really explore a lot in the book. Just like that feeling, especially like as a teenager and as someone in their 20s, like you just want to feel wanted, you want to feel loved and special and all these amazing things. But like it sounds cliche, but it just really starts with yourself. Like as soon as you can rely on yourself for those things, independent of another person, like that's when you'll really find your person. Like it's funny. Like
Yeah.
when I finished the book at the beginning of the year, I turned it in. I was in a place where I was like happily single, and finally, like for the first time in my life, like I felt like I didn't need to search for a boyfriend. Like it had been like this never-ending search, like on dating apps. Like I need to find a boyfriend, da, da, da. And I was just in a place where I was like, you know what? If I find my person, that's great. But if I don't, I'm okay too. And as soon as that was my mindset, that's when I found someone.
It's so annoying because it's like, oh, you'll find someone when you least expect it. It's not that. It's
Yeah.
you'll it's more like you're more likely to find somebody when you don't feel like you need somebody to complete you because
Yeah.
you're really proud of who you are and that energy is attractive to other people.
Mhm.
It's not that you'll find someone when you least expect it, but
No,
I
no, what are you
but
saying?
also kind of.
Yeah, I know. I get what you're saying. I feel like you find like real love when the two of you are just like two independent souls that
Yes.
come together, not one person searching for validation and another person searching for validation, and you're constantly like back and forth, like validating each other. Like, no, you have to be able to validate yourself. He has to be able to validate himself, and then you both come together and you make each other shine brighter. Like that's
Exactly.
what it is.
That's what it should be, and I feel like we all find ourselves in so many situations where that is not the case, but we live and we learn, and then we get to where we need to be.
Exactly.
I
There.
wanna go back to kind of the beginning of your journey. So, you're 20, right?
Yes.
Okay, I'm 29,
Okay.
and I feel really old right now, but I'm not. I'm 29, and that's okay. I just turned
Well,
29. Clearly, I'm having an issue with it. You from the start, and this is a theme throughout your situationships and relationships,
hmm.
Snapchat.
Yeah.
I want to talk about this because I did not have Snapchat when dating. Like Snapchat first came out when I remember the first time I heard about Snapchat, I was going into college and my friend said she would only send me a picture post nose job if I did it on Snapchat because it
Yeah.
would disappear in 24 hours. I'm like, what the hell is Snapchat? So I didn't have social media. Like we had
Right.
Facebook and we were uploading really embarrassing pictures onto Facebook, but most of our conversations, like we had flip phones where we had to like press three buttons to send text and type letters.
Yeah.
So it was really awesome for me to read about how big of a role Snapchat played. I'm curious what it was like for you. Like when, first of all, did you start on social media
Mhm.
personally and professionally? And
Sure.
what was it like having Snapchat as a part of your dating journey from literally the age of 13, if not
Yes.
earlier?
So the first part of the question, I got social media when I was about 10. Like I was really young.
Okay.
I had an Instagram at first. I really just posted photos with friends, just used it for fun. In terms of using it professionally, I was about 16 and I started a fashion blog and just wanted to like promote it, I guess, a little bit more. So I turned my Instagram into a more professional space and posted like fashion photos. My account kind of grew. I was like a micro influencer per se, like 100K. And then over the pandemic, I blew up on TikTok, and that's kind of how that whole thing came to be and how everything grew. So in terms of Snapchat, that was something that I would use primarily for like friends. I used it
Right.
professionally for like a period of time when I was like monetizing off of Snapchat Spotlight. That lasted like a year, but anyway, that's an aside. But in terms of using it for friends in dating, I think as a 13-year-old girl, if you didn't have a Snapchat, you were like an outsider. Like you needed a Snapchat to like snap a guy. Like you didn't ask for a guy's number. Like that wasn't the thing in middle school. Like you would ask for a guy's snap. Like, hey, what's your snap? And then you'd like snap each other back and forth, like these perfect selfies. So as you bring up, social media is such a big part of dating today, whether you're 13 or 18. Social media is a big part of it. I think about like dating apps, how people swipe on dating apps. Dating apps are really a form of social media. And
Yeah.
I don't want to speak on behalf of the general population, but let's just say most of these people swiping are looking at the photo and that's it. So
Yes.
that's I think the main problem. Like it's really rooted in Snapchat because we just send like sexy photos back and forth in middle school. But like what is a dating app? Like we're looking through pictures of these guys and are we really scrolling down and like reading the blurbs sometimes, but it's usually just like, oh, is that guy cute, like can I see myself with him, I'm gonna heart him. Like
Right.
sometimes you don't even give like the blurbs the time of day, so that's the main difference.
Did it feel like it added an extra layer of pressure to like look good when you were going to school and stuff? If you were going home and like putting on
Oh
makeup or like a
yeah.
cute top to like send a Snapchat, but then like you had to go to school the next day and see this person in the halls or by the lockers or in
Mhm.
class. So I feel like if you're like looking good on like in your bedroom at
Yeah,
night, you have
the
to
same person.
continue to look good the next day.
So yes, in middle and high school I would wear makeup and straighten my hair pretty much every single day to go to
Oh my
school.
God.
And it was exhausting, especially in middle school when I was trying to fit in. Like I would just be in full beat like every day. I think when I reached really like my senior year of high school, and the people closest to me know this, I just like didn't give a fuck anymore. Like I didn't care about friends because I didn't have friends and I was sick of trying to make friends. It was just stupid. I was sick of chasing guys. They were all losers. They were rude. Like I went into my senior year of high school and I was like, I am just done. Like this is stupid. I like sat alone at lunch every day and I'd FaceTime like my famous TikToker friends from LA and I did not give two shits. Like I really did not care. I spent my free periods in the library and I would show up to school and I'd have pimples all over my face and I would not care. So I just reached a point where I was like so, I think, confident in myself and I didn't really care about the way I was like presenting myself every day. Like I didn't need to try too hard. Like if someone thought I was cute, like they should think I'm cute with like a pimple on my nose. Like I shouldn't have to be in like a full beat every day.
I love, love, love that. I want to like shout that from the freaking rooftops right now because it's so true. Like, and that's why I think it, as cheesy as it is, you have to be yourself in dating because if you go, I remember like there were so many people where I was afraid, like we'd get like 5, 6, 7 dates in, and I was like, okay, well, I've looked really good every single time. Like, at what point can I like wear leggings and a
Yeah.
shirt and like not wear
Mhm.
makeup? And my fiance Jake, on our third date, it was the day after I got my first COVID vaccine
Mhm.
and I felt so sick. I like literally couldn't lift my arm. Like he had to like cut my food for me.
Yeah.
And we ended up going back to my apartment and I just changed into sweatpants and like took my makeup off. And I was like, this is somebody I feel comfortable to do that around. Like
I
that
love
is a
that.
huge green flag.
Similarly, not so similarly, on my third date with my current boyfriend, my grandma died and he had to take me home and sit with
Oh my
me.
God.
So I also had very early on had to show myself not at 100 with
Yeah.
my
But
friend.
I'm so sorry to hear that. But I imagine it was nice to see for him to see that side of you and for you to see like this is somebody who can show up for me.
Yeah, exactly. It was really interesting. Like it was, I knew I liked him, but obviously like it's the third date. Like you're not totally sure.
Yeah.
And then like I get the call like in the middle of my date that my grandma died.
God.
And I'm like, what am I supposed to do? So then I just start like crying in front of him and I'm like, I'm so sorry. Like this is super awkward. Like I don't really know what to tell you. Like basically she was in the ICU when my mom called and I asked him to like take me home and sit with me until she was gone because I didn't want to be alone. And I feel like most guys would like run. They'd be like, "This is too much. Like, I'm gonna go. Like, I'll see you later." But he sat with me until my parents got home. This was the third date. Like, he sat with me until my parents got home. He sent flowers the next day. Like, just a really, really good guy. And I feel like that's really rare to find. Like, if you find someone who's able to stay with you when you're vulnerable and see you when you're low and still care for you, like that's when you found like a really mature guy.
Yeah, absolutely. And the fact that, he came home with you and met your parents on your third
Well,
date too.
well,
Or had he already met them?
so no. So what happened was, okay, if we're gonna get to the full story, um,
Let's do
okay,
it.
so
The next chapter.
next chapter, he's home for literally like 10 minutes, and the doorman calls, and he's like, "Your mom is home," and I'm like, "Oh my god!" Like she
Oh
must.
my God, I love that.
And I was like, "Oh my god! Like my grandma must be dead. Like what am I supposed to do?" So
Oh
I was like,
God.
"We gotta get you out of here. Like we just gotta get you out of the house." So I'm like rushing him out. I like open the door. It's my mom. I'm like, "No, no, 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 no." So then I close the door on my boyfriend, and I say to my mom, I gave her a hug, and I was like, "Do you mind going in the neighbor's house a sec? Like we're really close with our neighbors." I was like, "Just go in the neighbor's house so like I can get rid of him." That's like what I said. Like I hardly knew him at the time. I was like, "Just let me get rid of him."
Yeah.
And then so I like rushed him out. I'm like, "I'm so sorry." Like, blah, blah, blah. I walk into the elevator. The elevator door opens and it's my dad. And I'm like, "Oh my
Oh my God.
god!" And it was just the most awkward encounter. They were like, hi, nice to meet you."
And everyone's like in between tears
Oh my
and
god, it was so incredibly
processing.
awkward. Once like that happened, like the awkward elevator encounter, I was like, "This is it. Like, I blew it. This is totally blew it. And then I got a text as soon as he got home. I got the flowers the next day. It was absolutely wonderful. So
Wow.
that was
Well,
that was the beginning of our relationship. The week my grandma died.
I'm so sorry about your grandma, but I'm so happy that he was able to show up for you, and if you could get through that awkward, chaotic moment, you can get through anything.
Exactly. From date number 3. Like, that's
Yeah.
when you know.
I was curious throughout the book, and I wanted to ask this, so this is a perfect way to tie it in.
Yeah.
You live with your parents.
Yes.
You're 20, so that makes sense. But I feel like there were a lot of anecdotes where you would come home late at night, or the boy would go up the elevator with you and that would be your end. Like, what role do you think your parents played throughout these situations, or like how did living with your parents and being
Yeah.
open with them, because it seemed like you were very open with them about what was going on with these guys,
Mhm.
like how has that impacted your dating life?
So I'm an only child, so I'm very open with my parents about everything, I guess, that's going on in my life. I think it has its pros and cons because when I'm going through heartbreak, for example, they're always there for me to sit with me. I have someone to come home to. On the other hand, like when I get home at midnight, I feel like they gradually like warmed up to it over time. Like my parents are really cool about that. It's gotten better as I've gotten older. I have this one anecdote in the book where I'm 17 and like a 28-year-old guy takes me upstairs and I get in this huge fight with my mom over it because I'm like, I think I was 18. No, I was 18, but I was like newly 18. So she was like freaking out, like, oh my God, you're like a minor basically. And there's a guy who's almost 30 and yada, yada, yada. So we've had our moments. There are a bunch of times where it's definitely like gotten in the way, but they always have my best interests at heart, no matter how much I want to admit it. So I'm very grateful. Like now I'm looking for apartments finally, God bless. And I feel like I'm finally like primed and ready for it. Like they've really set me
Yeah.
on the path to be independent over these past 3 years, almost 3 years as an adult. I'm almost 21.
I laughed a lot to myself when in the book you came back after seeing that guy who was like 28, and your mom freaked out because it was so unfortunate, because that storyline, like that night seemed so mature and wonderful and like
Yeah.
a New York City fairy tale romance. Like there was nothing wrong with anything that happened, but I understand that any mom would freak out that
Yeah.
their 18-year-old daughter is like, "Oh, I just met a boy who I'm in love with who's 28."
Yeah, it was I don't know. It was stupid. I think part of the reason why it was stupid is because I don't know. So many things could have gone wrong. Like I mentioned, like I let him take me to the park, like in the middle of the night.
Right.
I let him order the car home. Like he could have changed the address to God knows.
Yeah.
There's so many things that could have gone wrong, which I get it.
Right.
But I was newly 18. I was enjoying my freedom as an adult. I just
Quote
didn't realize,
unquote freedom.
yeah, freedom. I just didn't really realize that like just because I can sign my own contracts doesn't mean I'm like fully free yet. Because unfortunately, I'm still under their roof.
Yes. Are there any guys that you wrote about or didn't write about that you regret and would undo if you could?
Um, no, I mean, I say like live with no regrets. I feel like a lot of people say that, but I really do. I learned a lot from each and every one of them. There are some things I wish I could have done differently in some of the situations. I mean, like one comes to mind, like the Aristotle addict. There's this guy that I was total asshole. I kept going back to him over and over and over and over and over again, probably like 5 times until I realized he wasn't he wasn't right. But I just kept like going back to him. I feel like if I could go back in that situation, I probably would have cut it off way earlier. So small
Yeah.
things like that. But at the end of the day, like looking back and reflecting on each one, I feel like these all taught me such important lessons and really just set me up for the type of man and the type of love that I deserve.
Do you think you realized what those lessons were as you were experiencing them, as you were like processing them, or was it until later when you were reflecting and writing about them that you were able to
So,
pull them out?
as I mentioned, a lot of them I wrote, a lot of these chapters I wrote like the day after. So like that Aristotle guy, for example, that was a thing that went on for like a year and a half. And I was kind of like taking notes along the way, like just in case like this didn't work out because I kind of knew it would work out.
I would love to read the notes app on your phone.
Oh my god, yes. I think I may have
Gold
posted
mine.
it on one point. Well, I can't share it because the real names are in it. So you look through
True.
every name like a million times. But for that one in particular, like I came home from that experience and I knew it was done. And I just started writing down everything and I didn't really know like what the takeaway was, what the lesson was. So I was learning that lesson as I was writing it. Like I was analyzing it and trying to make sense of it for myself. And once I like finished, like hit the last period, I was like, okay, I'm satisfied. Like there's one dude, the last chapter in my book, after we broke up, I was so heartbroken. I hadn't written a single word about him. There were no notes. Like I thought we were gonna make it. There were no notes. So I was like, all right, I gotta start from scratch on this chapter. This is gonna be tough. So I've spoken about this in my book. I don't like the Hamptons. I have a lot of negative memories there. Like I trap myself in my room there. I hate it. So I turned to my dad. Like nobody really knows this. I turned to my dad and I'm like, we're going to go to the Hamptons for a few days so I can write this chapter. Like, I'm going to lock myself in my room and I'm going to write this chapter. So that's exactly what I did. I spent like 3 days in my room, just like writing, like, getting it done, trying to write my chapter and also get over my breakup at the same time. It really gave me some closure and helped me analyze what happened. And the funny thing is, once I was done, I was like, okay, let's go home. We get in the car to go home. And I'm like, wait, dad. I was like, I just forgot like one more thing that I want to write. Can you like stop? Like, can I go like use the Wi-Fi in our living room a sec and just like write it down? So I had to like go back in and like fix it. But stuff like that
But
happened.
it worked. You did it.
Well, it worked.
Yeah. There's two things I want to talk about that we kind of just played with a little. In terms of moving on, you wrote something in one of your early chapters about it was after your first love.
hmm
This concept of you actually said, I banished the phrase moving on from my vocabulary.
hmm
I want to hear why. I know I read why, but I want everyone to hear why because I thought this
Yeah.
was really, really profound and
Thank you.
wise.
So that is, it actually like makes me so happy that you pulled that out because that's my favorite passage of the whole entire book. So
Oh
that
my
makes
God.
me
Okay, I
so
love that.
happy. Uh, it's like my favorite thing I've wrote in this book. So yeah, that chapter was my first chapter I wrote. That section was one of the last chapters, the last sections I wrote. That's a little box at the end of the
Wow.
chapter. So I talk about how, you know, your first love, there's always going to be some emotions attached. And a few years later, like it could be 3, 4 years later, and you'll still feel something randomly, whether it's in the form of a social media post, you see his name pop up somewhere. It doesn't mean that you have still have feelings for him. It just means that you felt something for him. You're human. So I talked about how like moving on is that doesn't really make sense. That's like kind of linear. Like why are we trying to move on from something? Like it makes it seem like there's an end point that we're trying to reach when there's really no end point in trying to get over a heartbreak because it can strike you whenever and you can't be like searching for like, you know, the 1 year mark to feel better or like the 3 year mark to feel better. There's no end point. So instead of moving on, which has that like definitive end goal in my mind, I like to say like moving forward, just like continuing to like go forth and prosper despite what happened to you. And on that path forward, there might be a little hiccup along the way, and that's okay. But you're not like trying to reach this moment of like total and utter complete like healing from a breakup,
Yeah.
I guess.
It's almost like what we talked about in the beginning where, like, your book's out or there's no, like,
Yeah.
it happened, it's done" moment, like,
Yeah.
graduating from whatever, accomplishing this thing. There's no, like you don't get handed a trophy or a medal. There's
Yeah.
no, "Okay, you graduated from breakup, like, welcome to the next part of your life." It is a process. It is not linear, and
Yeah.
you also don't wanna just forget about it because, like we talked about, like, there are things that you learn, there are things you take away. You grew from this experience. You grew from healing from it and going through it. And
Yeah.
it's okay if you kind of relapse and feel sad or you miss a person or you still have love for someone. That was something I
Mm.
remember I went through a really, really bad breakup, and it was the first time I was ever in therapy, and
Mhm.
I kept trying to, like, argue with my therapist at the time where I was like, "Well, I don't think I'll ever, like, be over this person. I'll always, like, love them. Like, how could I ever just move on?" And he
Yeah.
was like, "Well, I've been married for 40 years. I'm so in love with my wife. She is my person. There are still people from my past that I'll always have love for, and that's okay. That's human." And I thought that that was really I almost, like, couldn't process that at the time because I was like, "No, but I'm in love with this person who doesn't wanna be with me. What do I do?"
Mhm.
But it's okay to always have love for somebody
It's human.
or to always remember them and have them as a part of your story.
Definitely. I think it took me a while to recognize that and come to terms with the fact that, like, you can visit a place that you visited with an ex and still feel reminded of them and feel emotional because it once held emotional meaning to you. And it doesn't
Yeah.
have to mean you still like them or anything. It just means they once meant something to you. Like, that is a normal feeling. We need to normalize, like, the fact that many of us have exes. We have pasts with, like, emotional ties. It doesn't mean we're clinging to our past. In fact, it makes us more mature that we're able to look at our past and own our emotions from it.
Absolutely, and, as time goes on, you might not feel that way anymore. Like, you might get to a point where, like, I definitely do not still
Mhm.
feel any form of
Exactly.
love or any
Anything.
positive feelings towards this
Right.
person, actually.
Right.
But as hard as that experience was, I'm still glad that it happened because it made me who
Yeah.
I am.
Definitely. I think that was the main thing with this guy, the first love. Like, I I don't want to say hatred, but I don't like him like anymore at all.
Yeah.
But
And you're
regardless,
allowed. You're allowed to feel that way.
right. But regardless, I saw, as I mentioned in the little blurb, that he was doing a project with a friend not recently, but when I turned in my book recently. Like I said, it was one of the last things I wrote. And even though I strongly dislike him, he felt closer to me physically in the form of a social media post than he had been in 3 years. And that was hard. And it's okay to admit that.
Yeah, it is like a shock to the system when you see something like that.
Yeah.
And it's crazy how you can suddenly feel like back in a place you were
Hmm.
years ago, or like, oh my God, this, I haven't thought about this person. I haven't let them impact me. And now why do I suddenly feel the way I feel about this?
Yeah. It's okay to remember. That's something I've definitely learned, I think, in writing this book. It's okay to look back on experiences you've gone through and reflect on them and see what you've learned from them. And it doesn't have to mean you're, like, ruminating over them. It just means you're, like, working on yourself to become, like, a more emotionally rich individual by reflecting on your
Yeah.
experiences. So it's okay to, like, remember, like, you had an ex in the past. Cool. You can remember that
Yeah.
if you get reminded sometimes, and that's perfectly healthy.
Yeah. Exactly. One thing I noticed that I wanted to ask you about. There was one point in the book where you said, like, somebody was kind of a rebound or you were looking for a rebound
Yeah.
after getting out of, like, a year-long relationship, but I noticed you didn't actually talk about that year-long relationship in the book, and I don't think you did, at least. Some of the experiences that you wrote about, they weren't the longest relationships. They weren't people you were in serious relationships with. Some
Yeah.
of them were people you only met once or, like, had this
Yeah.
one night romantic thing with, but they still impacted you
Mhm.
and your life, and you still learned so much from those experiences. And
Right.
that's kind of one the point I wanted to make is how sometimes people are like, "Oh, well, I've never been in a relationship, so I don't have any relationship experience. I don't know what I'm doing." Or is anybody going to not want to date me because I'm 20 or I'm 30 and I've never, like, been with somebody? It's like
Mhm.
you don't need to be in a relationship to learn things about how to be a partner
Yeah.
and or about yourself. And so many of these experiences you wrote about weren't defined boyfriend girlfriend relationships, but they
Yeah.
still impacted you.
Right. I think out of 14 chapters, 2 of them were relationships, sort of. Like,
Yeah.
relationship, whatever that meant. But yeah, most of them were just, like, situationships, like talking for a year on and off. I think that's what you were referring to. Like I had a thing
Mhm.
where I would go back and forth with someone for a year. Will he? Won't he? Does he want me? Does he
Right.
not want me? And I was so emotionally drained from that situation. So
Yeah.
those are the types of things that you learn a lot about yourself. And like, yes, sometimes like the short-lived 2-3 month relationships like can teach you a lot, but also like that guy who's like 29 or 28 that I went out with that one night, I learned a lot from that too.
Yeah.
You make a good point.
Yeah. There's always something you can take away from an experience, and just because it wasn't defined doesn't mean it
Hmm.
wasn't important. Doesn't mean that
Exactly.
feelings weren't there.
Exactly.
People can't leave if they were never there for you to begin with.
One tree.
One Tree Hill,
Thank
Carrie Berkk.
you very much. Another.
I think that is such an amazing way to process ghosting.
Thank you. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I just need everyone to hear it.
So wait, the first part of the quote, basically.
People always leave, but
One
sometimes
Tree
they come
Hill.
back. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Yes. So I give this One Tree Hill quote in my book. I'm obsessed with One Tree Hill, favorite show. People always leave. And that has stuck with me through everything, friendships, relationships. I always say people always leave. Like when another guy left, people always leave. And I would reflect on it. And one time I was just sitting down and I was thinking about this guy and like getting ghosted, as you mentioned. And I was like, but did he really leave? Because he was never really there for me to begin with. So that's kind of when I got to that like epiphany. People can't leave if they were never there for you to begin with. So sorry, One
People
Tree
can't
Hill.
leave if they were never there for you to begin with. I love it.
What
It
about
like that
what
needs to
about
be plastered. Like that needs to be a freaking billboard in New York City.
mm-hmm.
I think people will find so much peace if they can remember that when they get ghosted or when something doesn't work out. Because more often than not, when you reflect on those situations, those people weren't there. They were not showing up for you. They were not saying anything to kind of or showing like they're maybe they were saying things, but they weren't showing that they were there
Yeah.
for you. And it was never going to be what you maybe romanticized it could be.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah. I think I'd become so numb to ghosting at that point. Like I had just been ghosted and ghosted and ghosted, and I was like, whatever. Like another one left. People always leave. People always leave, but they were never really there. Like I had to like kind of like give myself a slap in the ass and say like people can't leave if they were never there for you to begin with. Like sorry, One Tree Hill. Write a letter to the writer of the show.
Yeah, right.
But like, what I forgot who said. I think Peyton said it.
It was definitely a Peyton
Yeah,
line.
like, was Chad
Oh
Michael
yeah.
Murray, like, really there for Peyton ever? Like, I don't know. I haven't watched the show in a minute, but
I'm gonna have to rewatch it just to answer that. I feel like that could be like a whole dissertation of like, was Lucas really there for
Lucas,
Peyton?
that's his name. I say it's my favorite show. I haven't watched it in, like, 5 years, so I need a refresh.
Yeah. Okay, before I let you go, two final questions.
Mhm.
My favorite question to ask, what is the best piece of dating or relationship advice that you've ever received or have to give?
Okay, two-part question. First, the best relationship advice I have to give is just to be yourself, because if you're attracting energy that is, like, attracted to something about you that is false, like, I mentioned in my book that I told a guy I was into clubbing and I attracted like some drunk. So that wasn't like for me. So it's just like a waste of time. Like be yourself and you'll attract someone who likes you for you. Like, why waste your time just trying to be someone else? It sounds like simple and cliche, but like really, just like be yourself. Come on. That's like my main piece of advice. Best piece of advice I've been given was, I think it was recently, just to not be afraid of like conflict in a relationship. I feel like that's so like under talked about. Like you look at some of these relationships, like, you know, the first love where it was just all like first surface level, like happy, we didn't fight ever. Like you should have uncomfortable conversations. Like a little conflict is healthy and normal. If you're not having an uncomfortable conversation with your partner once in a while, something might be wrong. So I think that was a really good piece of advice, just not to be afraid to have those uncomfortable conversations with the person you're dating, not be afraid to make mistakes. Like, don't try to be perfect. You're going to make mistakes. They're going to make mistakes. As long as you two are able to like sit with each other and talk it through maturely and listen to each other and take turns talking without interrupting. Like that's what's important. And that's something I always valued and that I wanted in a relationship that I talk about in the book, but was never able to achieve.
Absolutely. I think the uncomfortable conversations, the things that you're afraid to talk about or afraid to say, those are the most important conversations you need to be having.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah. Carrie Berkk, thank you so much for being here.
Wait, you had a second
Congratulations.
question? You had two.
Yeah, it's where can everybody find you and
Oh,
get the book?
is there like an intense question coming? It's like the last
keeping you on the edge of your
one.
seat. No, you passed the intense question test with flying colors.
Oh my God. Okay. Yes, you can get my book. I think by the time this podcast comes out, it's available, right?
Yes, it is. It's out.
Okay. So my real life rom-com is available now on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Target, Walmart, basically anywhere you can.
Everywhere
Everywhere you can buy a book. And you can follow me on Instagram at Carrie Berkk. I'm posting a lot of behind the scenes content from the book cover shoot and all sorts of stuff from the book party that's coming up.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Guys, you have to get the book. Like Carrie, I read it in one sitting and I'm a bad reader. Like I will like try so hard to read and struggle getting through books. And I could not put it down.
Thank you.
So congratulations. Thank you for sharing your stories with us. And thank you also for coming on the show.
Thank you.
All right, you guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Share this episode with a friend, post on your story, go get the book. It is linked in the show notes. Follow Carrie, also linked in the show notes, and I'll talk to you guys next time. Thanks for listening, daters. I hope today's episode made you feel just a little bit less alone out there, no matter what your status might be. Give your finger a break from swiping and hit that follow and review button instead. And if you have any burning questions or want to share your own dating horror stories, reach out to seeingotherpeoplepodcast@gmail.com. And in the meantime, keep on seeing other people.